Hello my fellow Archons, and welcome to another video. This past weekend, on Saturday, February 24th, I had the opportunity to travel down to Livonia, Michigan to compete in the KeyForge Grim Reminders Prerelease tournament. The event was held at RIW Hobbies Games, had right around 25 competitors, and was a total blast. So today, I wanted to cover it here in video form and tell you all about it. Without further ado, let's get into it. The event started at 12:30, at which point we were allowed to start cracking open our pre-release packs and begin constructing our decks. Each pack contained 3 sealed Grim Reminders decks and a special house pin. I got a logos pin to add to the collection. The first deck I opened was named ZC Ocantino of the Meager Plateau, which I unfortunately can't currently show you on DOK because there's a Revenant in it, since Natus resurrects it over in the Starlion's house. It also contained my very first Witch Queen, who brought along Darna and Witch of the Dawn as legacies. Nothing too crazy, but it was still exciting to open a Witch Queen and a Revenant in the same deck. The Equidon was nothing spectacular, but the Untamed had a cool combo that would have allowed me to Rule of 6 my Witches with my Witch Queen and Kingafant out on the board, but sadly I didn't notice that combo until after the tournament when someone pointed it out to me. Play a Witch ready, reap with it, Kingafant kills it and puts it back to my hand, then I play it again and repeat the process into a Rule of 6, and I could do that with all my Witches. My second deck was Swarmlord Zeus Dambrace with a pretty mediocre Equidon, an interesting Geistoid with the Clock Crew, and a decent Starlions. Honestly, I didn't end up using any pods from this deck. None of them really hit me with a stroke of inspiration. Also, I just didn't want to deal with the mess of rules the clocks could potentially lead to. There were only 3 upgrades, only one of which was in Starlines to go with Commander Drixgar, the Equidon was clogged with a bunch of duds, and overall it felt pretty bland. Prospects began looking up when I opened my third and final deck, Queenadast Ruins Tribune. Now, I didn't know the deck was a ridiculous 108 sass when I first opened it. I didn't scan my decks until later that night after the tournament, but I immediately began liking the looks of its pods. The Geistoid had triple Winds of Death. Once I saw that, I knew I had my board control covered for the most part. There was also an Ecto Charge, but not only an Ecto Charge, but also a Future is Past. If both those cards showed up in the same hand on turn 1, that's an instant free key. I really hope to pull off that combo at least once during the tournament. There's also double Snippy, double BR Geist, Energy Vampirism, just overall a really good pod. The Mars I was similarly fond of, with a double Target Unixidal for targeted recursion, Iron X Rebel and double Mars First for some instant creature use and good burst potential, Hypnotic Command with 5 Mars creatures, and some other very handy tools scattered throughout. UFO could get me haunted quickly and draw me into more Mars to use, and if I ever discarded my Ecto Charge to a discard effect like that one, I could get it back into my archives with the target. So in the end, I went with the Geistoid and Mars pods from Queenadast and the Starlines pod from Ocantino. I really liked the extra Ember control provided by the double Strength from Diversity, Garcia, Palak, and Body, along with the touch more board control via Stunning with Unprepared and Bad Chemistry, and the extra key cheat with Forging an Alliance. The easily recurable modular exoskeleton upgrade also had 2 discard pips on it, useful for hitting scrap effects like Snippy and Tangler, and could really power boost things like Grabber Jammer and Garcia. And of course the Revenant Cincy was neat too. So overall, good card value all around, great board control, Ember control where I needed it, a couple cards to get me haunted, good recursion, good burst potential, a decent amount of Ember pips, some discard pips and scrap abilities to go with them, and an Ecto Charge to clinch third key victories. I was feeling good. We played 4 total rounds, and round 1 was a blowout victory for me. The opponent just wasn't able to get much of a game plan in motion, and it wasn't helped by the fact that I was constantly capturing all his Ember and stunning or destroying all his creatures. I forged key 3 with Ecto Charge for very little. Let's just say this would become something of a trend moving forward. Round 2 was a much tighter and more stressful game. My opponent goes by Lazarus on the Discords, and he was running some scary Mars Brobnar Geistoid shenanigans. I got hit with Recklessness numerous times, and one turn, when I was set up for an archived Ecto Charge to win the game, he forced me to reshuffle with it. I even had Future is Past in hand just in case such a thing happened, but Recklessness discarded it. It was a very exciting nail-biter of a match, lots of swings back and forth as we fought for our keys and wiped each other's boards, but because I had Ecto Charge archived all game, I was able to pull it out at the most opportune time, hit some clutch Snippy scraps, and forge my third key with it. In round 3, my opponent possessed a Mars pod with 4 copies of Scoop Up, double Memorex the Red and Iron X Rebel, which he utilized to a terrifying extent, bursting like crazy. The Red Death, and my ability to consistently ready and use it, came in super clutch, as I was able to quickly fight his Memorex off the board. And thank goodness he's 12 power, because he even played Big Magnet at one point to move my modular exoskeleton from my Garcia onto one of his Memorexes, making it 9 power. But I once again forged my third key with Ecto and put my record at 3-0. Now, my brother accompanied me on this trip to Livonia, and it just so happened that he, along with one other person, also had an undefeated 3-0 record, and he ended up as my opponent for the 4th and final round. Interestingly, he had been switching out pods every game, so this was his 4th iteration of his deck. This round was similar to round 1. I completely destroyed my opponent 3 keys to none. Granted, he wasn't drawing very well, while my hands were coming off wonderfully, but either way, I got the W and finished the tournament with a 4-0 undefeated record. The third player, who was 3-0 at that point, also went undefeated, but due to strength of schedule, I squeaked out first place overall, winning the whole pre-release tournament. The prizing wasn't anything too crazy, but I got an AOA display and an Unchained deck for my win, which I'm honestly not mad about. Huge thank you to RIW Hobbies Games for providing space for the event, and massive shout out to Mike or Mflava on Discord for running it. I can't wait to do it again in Midland this upcoming weekend. And that wrapped up the event. Once again, it was an absolute blast. It's super hyped that I took first place overall, and I also walked away with an 108 SAS Grim Reminders deck, which currently puts it in the top 10 of all Grim Reminders decks on DOK as of this video. If you want to take a closer look at it, I'll leave a link to it in the description below. Thank you all so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you all again in the next one. See you later.